Hello everyone, we are reading The Body of Christopher Creed. I had hoped that a new start away from Steepleton would make my junior year seem like 100 years ago, rather than just one. Granted, senior year is not a great year to be switching schools, especially if you played football, baseball, had a decent blues band going in your basement, and had known the same kids since forever. I kept telling myself at first, hey, going to boarding school will be like leaving for college a year early. It's cool. But that's a hard argument to hold on to when you're looking at people whose average age is 15, and when we're still living under a 10 p.m. weekend curfew in the dorm. At first, it was a weird change, but staying in Steepleton, after all that had happened, would have been weirder. Mostly, Rothbourne has been good. It wasn't more than a couple of months before I could actually concentrate in class and get decent grades again. I could spot guys from the dorm as I walked into the dining hall, and I could pull up a seat next to them and goof around. I asked a girl to the movies once, and she said yes. Nobody stares at me here. Nobody is suspicious of me. That part is gone. I'm not saying that life has been perfect. That's the roommate thing. There's the roommate thing. Cartwright is pretty cool. He's a crew maniac who also loves pranks, embellishing his own girl stories, and shooting the bull late at night with me. But he's got his own set of ideas, like when to finally nod off and put out the light. And if you have nightmares, flashbacks, and other sleep screw-ups, it's not easy lying awake in the dark. While I had many days of cracking into campus trees from zero sleep during the fall, this spring I've only had a couple. In some ways I'm just your basic guy again. I do have a ponytail, and most guys around here have nubs, which is more the style, if there is a style these days. Around Easter I took to adding little goofy things to it. A seagull feather, a clamshell on a suede leash, a rabbit's foot. Some girl asked me last week if I was running a dead animal farm. I felt my face turn all red, but deep inside I was kind of happy about that remark. She was the first person at Rothbourne to take my meaning. Well, sort of. I like animals and all, but I'm not obsessed with animals. I don't let myself get too crazy when people start asking questions like, so, why'd you come as a senior? Or, you could pass for a model if you'd cut that hair. So why don't you? It's always the girls who ask the stuff. Most guys are content to accept you just because you're cool and don't make waves. But about a week ago, this guy down the hall from me, Leo, barged into my room when I had the door shut. People sort of avoid Leo, though it's kind of hard to explain why. He's a tall guy with brown hair who looks like everybody else. He likes to hang out in the Union and shoot the bull. He's just a little sideways, if I had to describe him. He always talks about girls, but he stares at guys. He came into my room without knocking, and I clicked out of my screen without even looking to see who was there. I should have known it was him, because most people would knock if your door was totally shut, but Leo never cared. You want to go to dinner, Tori? I could feel him looking, though I was watching my screen. Scared to death my latest letter would fly back up there, just because I didn't want him to see it, and then my secrets of Steepleton would get airwaved to the entire student body. Only Cartwright knew bits and pieces. No, I'm doing something, thanks. He wandered in and landed on Cartwright's bed, and his look turned into that stare that some guys don't like. Nobody wants to go to dinner, he said, picking up Cartwright's naked lady alarm clock, which Cartwright insists helps him concentrate on physics. Go by yourself, I said, taking a stretch to counter my thumping heart. Or ask Burke or Melafonte. They'd eat 5 times a day if they could. I wanted to flip a game up on the screen, but was scared of my spastic streak. I knew that letter would come flying back if I touched anything. You play that guitar pretty good. He jerked his head toward my ovation. Thanks. A bunch of kids got to oogling about my guitar playing this spring, when I finally started playing for other people again. That shocked me, because my friends in Steepleton had been used to it and didn't usually make a big deal. My music teacher here asked to record a couple of songs. I wrote. At first I thought he was being nice. But then I would hear the stuff other kids in my music class wrote, and I would think, puke, that's so doofus and normal. But my songs were too wrapped up in Steepleton. I wasn't ready for it if someone happened to see through all my symbolism. I could feel Leo staring. Somebody said you used to play football, he said. Yeah. You don't look like a football player. What'd you do? To lose all that weight? Get sick? I wonder who told him about football. Sometimes Cartwright said I mumbled in my sleep. Maybe I had made football commands in my sleep? Yeah, I got sick, I mumbled. Something like that. I hear your dad owns a huge engineering firm, and your mom's a lawyer. He watched me, and I tried not to squirm. If I let on that he'd miffed me, I would at least have to let fly the fact that everyday questions miffed me. But I was starting to realize that I was sort of an unusual case. Lots of kids had lived with only one parent, and if they did have both, usually it was just one who had the great job. Your house is like 300 years old, right? He asked. Right. I think Melafonte's in his room. He didn't take the hint, and I watched him turn Cartwright's clock over and over in his hands. Cartwright would kill Leo if he saw him handling his naked lady clock. Leo put it down and stood up, moved toward the window. He lifted my guitar case, spinning it this way and that. I could feel an ache shoot into my knuckles, remembering. Set of nostrils, huge grin, dual streams of blood closing the space between them, grin collapsing over red teeth. This aging memory that somehow crept up on me every couple of months still hadn't lost its zip. In one sense, Cartwright was a great roommate for an only child like me, because he didn't normally touch my stuff. But somebody around here was bound to pick up one of my guitars without asking. You can play it if you want, I said, but my voice cracked. I saw the case slowly sink down until it sat on one of his sneakers. He was smiling, watching me big time. You're just saying that. You look like you don't want anybody touching this guitar. Why not? People didn't like Leo. I guess he pried into some guys like this and stared, and it got them thinking he was gay. Not that gayness had to be a hot issue around here. There were 2 other gay guys in our dorm, but they were like, hey, I'm gay, so deal with it. So there wasn't much to deal with. But you could sense that Leo was struggling with something, and it made you struggle too. His watching me, it did something to my insides. I wanted to get up and hug him, something. I didn't. I just watched him back, wondering about myself, these twitches. Maybe you're gay, Tori. Maybe you're gay, and Leo is gay, and that's what's bothering you. I couldn't think if I'd ever had a gay thought before, but all of a sudden it was me staring at him, and he was looking away. He slowly put the guitar case down where he'd found it and stared at the wallpaper on my screen. What were you doing before I came in here? You ask a lot of questions, I muttered, gripping the mouse in my lap. Do people ever tell you that? Yeah, all the time. So, why do you ask so many questions, then? I watched him shrug, staring at my screen like there was something infatuating about it. People used to say I was weird, he said. I used to care, but I don't anymore. People shouldn't care. People shouldn't use words like weird once you hit junior year. Everyone's weird. That's the way I look at it. I watched him. Something about being weird had made me switch schools. His words got a hold of something inside of me, and all of a sudden I wasn't so terrified of him. He came toward me and I didn't move, didn't think about what he was going to do. He didn't touch me, and when he didn't, I gathered it was a good thing. Somehow I knew deep down inside what was up. He reminded me a lot of Chris Creed. I hadn't said more than 2 words to Chris Creed since I punched him out in the 6th grade. But when a kid sits behind you every day since kindergarten, sits across from you in Sunday school, belongs to your pool, annoys you in Cub Scouts, and throws 1,000 balls over your head in Little League, you don't have to like him in order to love him. All right, I'm going to stop there. I like to do 10-minute chunks.